My phone buzzed at 9:11 p.m. like a wasp trapped in a bottle. The sound was sharp and small, the kind that breaks a silence you hadn't realized was sitting beside you. I looked down, expecting something mundane, maybe a spam alert, a reminder to pay the water bill, but it was Lena. "Staying late at work, don't wait for me," she wrote. No emoji, no sorry. Just the kind of neat little message a person sends when they've already made the night into a tunnel you're not allowed to enter. The words were clinical, as though she'd typed them while standing in a room that didn't have my name in it. The overhead bulb hummed, low and steady, and the refrigerator's motor clicked on and off like a heartbeat trying to remember its rhythm. The house smelled like nothing, the way a place smells after a few weeks of careful lies. No burnt toast, no coffee left to cool, no perfume that doesn't belong, just the ghost of detergent and the metallic breath of the sink. I typed back, "Already had dinner," with HR. Then I hit send and watched the dots appear and vanish as if the dots could save a marriage. The 3 blinking ellipses: hope, hesitation, or judgment, each one a tiny stage light on a performance already closing. 2 hours later, she walked in white as a ghost, and I knew I had hit something. She paused in the doorway, coat still on, keys dangling between her fingers like a confession she hadn't decided whether to give. I could see it in her eyes, like a deer that realized the headlights weren't a rumor. She looked at me, looked at the kitchen sink, then set down her tote bag like it had gained 20 pounds on the way home. She took her time peeling off her scarf, the motion deliberate, as if slowing down could smooth over what had already cracked. "You ate with Amaya," she said. She tried for a smile. It came out lopsided and damp, the kind of smile that knows it's being graded. I shrugged. "You said don't wait." My voice sounded casual, but I could feel the tremor hiding under it, a wire pulled too tight. She went down the hall to the bathroom and shut the door. The sound of the lock was delicate but final. Then the faucet rushed, steady and long, as though she meant to drown something in the sink. I stood there for a while, just listening. The pipes in the walls shivered with the water's passage, and somewhere deep in the house the air ducts sighed. I opened the back door and stepped onto the stoop. The night met me with its cool, damp breath. Gray Harbor smelled of brine and old wood, of rain still trapped in the gutters. The river was a glimmering thread 2 blocks away, and the old mills rose on the far side like brick cliffs, dark and certain. Somewhere, a siren wailed, thin and lonely, and the scent of iodine and seaweed drifted in from the marina. I put my phone away and waited for the mirror to fog, for her to come out with a new face. I am not a genius. I am a building systems tech for the city's historic theater, the Starling, a baroque heap of plaster cherubs and cracked velvet that refuses to die. I keep the HVAC quiet, the locks honest, the sprinklers obedient. If you think a job like that makes you a locksmith of human hearts, you're wrong. But it does teach you how to listen to air. It teaches you that every space has its own pulse, its own hum, its own way of telling you when something is off. You learn to feel the difference between an old system settling and a new problem being born. Maybe that's what marriage is too, something that hums until it doesn't. When Lena came back, her hair was pinned up in that effortless way that says, "See, I've done nothing wrong." She reached into the cabinet for a bowl and poured cereal at 11 p.m. That old breakfast for dinner dodge, the meal of people who don't want to talk but don't want to leave either. The spoon clinked softly against the ceramic. I watched her from the table. We were a quiet movie, one where the dialogue had been turned off for a long time. We were a glass of milk nobody asked for. "You look tired," I said. "Big pitch week," she said. I nodded. NorthQuay Labs, the slick new consumer tech company that had taken over one of the old mills by the river, the one with glass walls and kombucha taps, where every meeting looked like an ad for happiness. Brand strategist was her title. Translating junk into desire was her art. She had a way of making things shine until people forgot to ask what they were really buying. That talent used to make me proud. Now it made me wonder how much of our life she had branded, polished, and sold back to me. I told her I was going for a run. She didn't answer, didn't even look up, just another spoonful of cereal, the milk swirling gray in the bowl. On my way out, I took the little mag light from the drawer. Habit. The night was all wet wool and streetlights smeared by mist. I jogged down the street, past the food hall where the music ran hot and sticky, then along the river toward NorthQuay. The cobblestones still held the day's rain. Every footfall splashed a small truth into the dark. The city was half asleep, its reflections trembling in the puddles. When I reached the mill district, the NorthQuay building glowed like an aquarium. Glass walls lit from within, showing silhouettes that moved like bright fish. I slowed down, pretending to stretch. And that's when I saw them. Gavin Pike in a suit that wanted to be a friend, all soft fabric and expensive ease, and Lena, my wife, in a blouse that was too new for the day she said she'd had. He walked her across the lobby and out to the street, not to the garage where she usually parked, to a rideshare idling with its fins lit up. He opened the door. She got in. He tapped the roof like a guy in a commercial. I kept running. What else do you do when you're not ready to stop being a fool? The night peeled back around me, and the marina smell grew stronger, full of salt and engine oil, and my legs did what legs do when your heart is busy lying to you. When I finally made it home, the house looked the same, too much the same. I lifted the hatch of my car to get my towel, and there it was on the carpet. A lipstick. Not her shade. A bright, hungry red that said, "Look at me." Not the muted berry Lena swore by, the one she wore like armor. This one was loud, alive, almost reckless. I picked it up and rolled it in my fingers like a coin. I could feel the little seam where the cap met the tube, the faint warmth it had stolen from someone's hand. I told myself maybe it was from a friend, maybe she'd carpooled, maybe it had rolled out of a coworker's bag. Anything but what my gut had already bought. I dropped the lipstick in the cup holder like a bullet I was looking at under a lamp and went inside. The house had gone colder while I was out. Lena was already in bed, or pretending to be. Her door was half shut, a line of soft light sneaking through from the lamp she always left on when she didn't want to talk. I stood in the hall a long time, listening, the sound of her turning a page, the rustle of fabric as she shifted under the covers. I wanted to knock, to ask her if she was happy, if she still wanted to try, if we could still find the old rhythm before it slipped entirely away. But the words felt too heavy to lift. I went to the kitchen instead and filled a glass of water. The tap hissed, the old pipes clattered. I could see my reflection in the dark window, the faint outline of a man blurred by the outside night. The streetlight behind me haloed the shape, making me look like a stranger sneaking into his own house. The next morning, she was gone before sunrise. Her coffee cup was on the counter, ringed with the same muted lipstick. I stood there staring at it, like proof of continuity, a detail the universe had planted to tell me everything was fine, but the quiet said otherwise. At work, the Starling was its usual self, half grandeur, half decay. The old stage lights blinked in tired sequence. The velvet seats breathed dust, and the projector room smelled faintly of ozone. I liked it that way. Machines are honest in their failures. When something breaks, it doesn't lie about it. It just stops working. I spent the morning recalibrating the thermostat system and trying not to think about red lipstick or glass-walled offices. Around noon, Amaya stopped by my workroom. She was HR, technically, but more like a confessor for the building's small tragedies. She leaned on the doorframe, holding a paper cup that steamed faintly. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said. "Guess I didn't," I replied. Too much on my mind. She smiled in that careful way people do when they sense a story, but know better than to ask. "You know," she said, "the old balcony sensors are still misreading heat signatures. We're getting phantom motion alerts again." "Ghosts of the audience," I said. They missed the applause. She laughed softly. "You always have a line ready." "Occupational hazard." When she left, her scent, jasmine and something sharper, lingered for a while, blending with the dust and ozone. It reminded me that even air could hold secrets. That night, Lena came home late again. This time she didn't text. Just walked in quietly around 11, heels in her hand, hair a little windblown. "You're still up," she said, surprised. "Couldn't sleep?" She nodded, dropped her shoes by the door, and went to the sink for a glass of water. The same glass, probably. The same silence between us, stretching and thinning like old paint. "Good day?" I asked. "Long," she said. "Client meeting ran over." "With Gavin?" The name slid out before I could stop it. She froze for a second, barely, but I saw it. The blink too long, the breath caught. "He's my creative director," she said. "Meetings happen." "Sure," I said. "Meetings happen." She didn't look at me, just went upstairs. The sound of her footsteps faded, then the creak of the bedroom door closing. I sat there until the fridge cycled off again and the house went back to its hollow heartbeat. Days passed like that, quiet storms, small silences. I told myself I was imagining it, that marriages have seasons, that everyone drifts. But every time she smiled, it looked rehearsed. Every time she touched her phone, it was too careful. And the lipstick stayed in the cup holder, a red seed growing roots in my mind. By Friday, I couldn't stand it. After work, I drove down to the marina, where NorthQuay's lights spilled like molten glass over the water. I parked across the street from their building, engine off, headlights dimmed. The lobby was alive, people in tailored coats, laughing, tapping out rides on their phones. Then she appeared, walking fast, her face bright in the reflections. Gavin was there again, coat slung over his shoulder, smiling that professional, endless smile. He said something that made her laugh. Really laugh. The kind of sound she hadn't made at home in months. He reached out, brushed something from her sleeve, and she didn't step back. The rideshare came. Same car, same glowing fins. He opened the door again. She hesitated for half a second, said something, and then got in. He stood there, watching the car pull away, hands in pockets, the river light flickering on his shoes. I sat there until my knuckles went white on the steering wheel. When I finally started the engine, the radio came on, mid-song, some old tune about second chances. I turned it off. When I got home, she was in bed, pretending to be asleep. I stood in the doorway for a while, looking at her, at the slow rise and fall of her back under the blanket. I wanted to wake her, to demand an answer, to end the guessing, but the words stayed locked in my throat, like screws rusted in place. The next morning, the lipstick was gone from the car. She never asked about it, and I never mentioned it. But the space it had left behind felt bigger than the glove compartment, bigger than the house. It felt like the silence that comes after a storm when you realize the water's still rising. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? The next morning, I called Amaya from the theater lobby, a space that always smells faintly of varnish and old applause. She had been a friend long before this. She did a panel at the Starling about workplace boundaries and had stuck around after to talk with the crew. We had coffee twice. She lived in the same world, but on the floor above me. She was not the type to pry, which made her the person I trusted. "You know I cannot do anything with rumors," she said. Her voice was cool water. "Policy is policy. If someone complains with details, I have to follow up. If they don't, I do not." "I am not asking for any investigations," I said. "I know the rules. I just needed to sit across from someone who wasn't selling me a mirror." She was quiet a second. "There is a big all-hands Friday. If something is going on, it will come out the stupid way. People show their worst when the lights are brightest." "Thanks," I said. "Be kind to yourself," she said, "even if you sharpen your teeth." After the call, I went down to Tess's bar. Tess was Lena's younger sister by 4 years and a weather pattern all her own. She worked 2 nights a week at a place called the Beacon, a brick box with a long wood bar and an honest jukebox that took dollar bills like they were still made of cloth. Tess had her hair up and a tattoo of a bird on her wrist that flapped when she poured. "You look like you licked a battery," she said. I gave a half smile. "You ever get the feeling you're the last to know a joke?" "All the time," she said. She popped a coaster on the bar. "What are you drinking?" "Club soda. I might run later." She watched me. "Lena said you two are fine. Lena says a lot. Ever seen her at the food hall on Tuesdays and Thursdays with a guy who thinks his teeth are a business card?" Tess did not blink. "South Dock? Slip 14?" she said, like a weatherman giving a tide report. I stared. "Who told you that?" "People talk," she said. "They talk more if you fill their glass at the right tempo." I sipped the soda and watched her work. In between orders, she laid down dirty little details like breadcrumbs. The office had a private Slack emoji for Gavin and Lena, a sneaker and a magnet, shoe in, get it. Gavin left his protein shaker on Lena's desk 2 nights in a row, and the hostess at the food hall said they always asked for the corner booth under the neon anchor because it was a blind spot for the security camera. It wasn't, but the rumor made them feel clever. She slid me a napkin with a time and a place in the neat print of someone who paid attention in math. South Dock, Slip 14, Wednesday night, 8:30. I tucked it into my wallet and felt cheap, then felt angry, then felt alive. "You are playing with matches," I said. "I like the light," she said. On the way out, I texted Amaya again. "Just a thanks." She sent back a thumbs up and a warning about policy in 6 words. "Don't turn rumors into crimes, Evan. The marina at night smells like rubber and salt and stubborn money." On Wednesday, I parked 2 streets over and walked in. The wind was cool and smelled like rain thinking about it. Slip 14 held a small leased boat with a name that tried too hard. Summer Fridays. A man had to be brave or stupid to brand his leisure. Gavin's German coupe sat 2 rows down with vanity plates that said Pike 38. There is a special kind of confidence built on loans. I did not touch the car. I left a mock parking notice under the wiper with a heart drawn in lipstick red marker. Beside it, I tucked a childish sketch of a lipstick next to a stick figure with a big chin. Petty, yes, but petty opens doors. I ducked into the bait shop when I saw them walking down the pier. The bell over the door gave me away. The kid behind the counter looked me up and down like I might be a late-night fisherman. I bought a pack of gum to keep my hands busy. Through the window, I watched Gavin touch the small of Lena's back. The move was smooth, practiced. He said something that made her laugh, and look around to see who had seen her laugh. My chest went cold and tight. When they reached the coop, I pushed out onto the pier, head down like a man who just remembered he left his lights on. I brushed Gavin with my shoulder. "Sorry," I said. He half turned. "Watch it," he said, a little too loud. I saw it then. The kind of face that needs to be watched. He clocked me, then the fake ticket, then his vanity plate, and a storm crawled into his eyes. I kept walking. I heard the car's engine cough awake behind me, and then the squeal of a tire that did not know the road was one way. I cut down the side of the night market that sets up midweek along the Marina Road. Food trucks were still open, string lights hanging like low stars. The cuckoo followed slow, then faster, then too fast for a one-way. A vendor crossed in front with a tray of plastic forks, and the car braked hard. People turned and shouted. I slipped through them, past a stall selling cheap rain jackets, and went up the alley behind the old tackle repair shop to the road that looped back to the main lot. The car came around, and I could see Gavin's face white in the glow. Then a security guard stepped out with his hand up like a crossing guard at a school. The coupe stopped. I turned the corner into a crowd and vanished. I do not run from everything, but that night I ran to make sure he kept chasing something that was not me. At the Starling, I like being alone on the balcony before a show. The red seats, the hush before applause, the sense that everyone is about to agree on a story. I came in early Thursday and checked the sprinkler zones for the upper balcony. After the renovation last year, we still had one dummy camera in the premium box. The donors had gotten fussy about privacy, and the contractor had left the housing in place to keep the aesthetic. I wrote the sticker that says inoperative on my inspection clipboard in case anyone asked why I knew. Because it is my job, I would say. He said there was a gala weeks back when a couple used the premium box for a little fogged window time. He said another stagehand tried to pull footage to laugh at later and found out the camera was a dummy. Dummy saved a job that night, Nick said, and laughed. I had not asked. People volunteer their sins when they think you are not a priest. I filed it away with a taste of copper in my mouth. My phone buzzed at lunch. Amaya again. "Heads up," she wrote. An anonymous complaint just landed about Lena. Reads like someone wrote it while they were standing in line for a bad idea. It might pop at the all hands, but it is sloppy. Be ready for noise. I wrote back, "I did not file it." She answered, "Did not think you did. Do not get sloppy." I put the phone away and went back to my pipes and valves. Steele made sense. Steele did not lie and ask you to take sides. Friday at noon, Gray Harbor packs into the Riverside Food Hall like fish spooked into a net. I wore a ball cap and a jacket and kept my head down. The ceiling fans chopped the smell of fries and wet wind into something like carnival air. Gavin was there in a pale shirt that said, "I lift," and a grin that said, "I do not pay for my own drinks." Lena was at the corner booth under the neon anchor, like rumor said. I did not need to hear every word. Crowds make privacy. I drifted close at the smoothie stand and waited my turn. Then I turned into him. The smoothie hit him in the chest in a fruity bruise. Petty, sure. He recoiled like I had thrown acid. I honestly said, "My bad." He stared, then did that chest-up thing men do when they think a crowd might rate the fight on points. I held my palms up. The worker behind us said, "Do you want napkins or what?" Gavin took a handful and dabbed at his shirt like he could reverse time. A hostess leaned toward me as I edged away and whispered conspiratorially, "They always ask for that corner. We comped them a bottle once, put it on a corporate morale thing. You would think money turns invisible if you smile at it hard enough." I left cash on the counter for my mess, then circled back by the bathroom where the sound bounces. I caught one clean line in Lena's voice as she emerged, the air bending around her perfume. "He is my raise with shoes," she said, laughing too loud. Not a confession, a mission statement. I stepped outside into the noise of the river. Tess was waiting by the rail, hair blown wild by the wind. She was furious and electric. "You are moving too slow," she said. "You want me to burn the town down in one day." "I want you to stop pretending you are a handyman in a flood," she said. She thrust her phone in my face. A photo. The premium balcony box at the Starling. Lena and Gavin in a tangle, his jacket on the rail. The angle was not a security cam. It was a donor's phone, long lens, the kind of thing people carry now to prove they were somewhere they should not have been. Where did you get this? I asked. People who drink for free talk for free, she said. The wind shoved us. The river threw spray like pennies. I put the image away in my head and felt something inside me turn black and smooth and simple. That night I went back to the beacon when Tess got off. She smoked on the back step, one foot on the brick wall, the way people stand when they want to look like they will not be moved. I do not smoke, but I stayed for the conversation. You feeding me crumbs so I can bake your cake, I said. She exhaled a ribbon and smiled without teeth. Lena stole my ex 2 years ago, Evan. Do I look like the type who forgets? In another life, I would send flowers to her office with a card that says, best of luck. Here, I like a front row seat. And the balcony photo, I said? Donor took it. He bragged into his highball about catching a pair of squirrels in the premium box. I told him free fries at the Beacon buys confessions. You are not dealing with a mastermind. You are dealing with people who want someone to clap. Amaya texted while I was out there. Anonymous complaint probably implodes, she wrote. Bad grammar, misidentified floor plan, vendetta smell. Expect chatter at all hands, not policy. Tess crushed the cigarette under her heel and looked at me hard. One more public humiliation, and he is done, she said. His lease, his pipeline, all of it. Men like him build on mirrors. Crack 1, the room looks wrong. Crack 2, he walks into a wall. Put him in a crowd when it happens. That is the trick. You care about the crowd, I said. I care about the story, she said. Wednesday night the next week, NorthQuay hosted a rooftop mixer for community partners. They sent open invites to everybody who could make them look generous. The Starling often partners on cultural programming. I signed up as a liaison and wore a jacket with my name stitched inside the way my father did when he wanted to feel like his bones still held him upright. String lights, mason jars, a DJ who had never been told no. The wind up there made everything feel like it might slip if you did not hold it with your eyes. I networked, which means I stood near the food and let people believe I was listening. I had a short audio clip on my phone, Lena's voice memo from our shared home tablet, synced by default. She had been talking into it in the bathroom one morning. You are my rays with shoes, she had said, laughing. Same line. If you think that line is too neat, you have not met a person who finds a sentence they like and wears it until it smells. When the DJ took a bathroom break, I asked if he needed a hand. Theater people carry cables like a second language. I cued my clip in the aux channel and let it slide into the mix. It lasted 8 seconds, muffled, a whisper that turned heads. The crowd smiled, then tilted, then went quiet in a way you can feel in your belt buckle. Lena froze. Gavin put his drink down and came at me as if the lights were a signal. He reached to grab my shoulder. I stepped to the side. He caught my sleeve and we did a stiff half-dance near the edge. Security moved in. 2 guys with earpieces who looked like they needed a story for later. Hands went up. They parted us like you separate dogs who forgot they were pets. I let something silver hit the concrete by Gavin's shoe. His eyes dropped to it like it was heat. His own spare key fob. I had lifted it earlier from the valet tag when he laid it down too close to my hand. I had not taken it to break the car. I had taken it to break his breath. He looked down, then up, and for the first time since I met his grin, I was sure he remembered he could lose. There are 1,000 ways to hurt a man. Most of them are loud and stupid. I do not do loud and stupid. I do humiliating, or I do cheap and permanent. I did not sabotage his engine or cut anything or sugar up a tank. I left him messages. Stick-on decals someone had to peel with their fingernails. A silly note wedged in the vent. Nice coupe. Shame about the driver. A layer of glitter puffed through the AC so that every time he turned the fan, he stepped into his own personal galaxy. Glitter is forever. Glitter is fate. On his gym route, there is a window that lets the sidewalk see into the weight room. I took a Polaroid of Gavin staring at himself in the mirror as if the mirror were a judge. The caption I scrawled under the photo was simple. How fast can you run, Gavin? I left it tucked under his wiper during a rain break. He would have to pick it up or let it dissolve. Either way, he would read it. At home, Lena met me at the door. You want a war? She said, low like a whisper and a knife both. You told me not to wait, I said. She stepped closer. You think you can finish anything you start. You never finish anything. You and I had a start, I said. Look at us now. She laughed without humor. Then she walked past me into the kitchen and took a bottle of water, like hydration was the only truth left. War it is, I said to the room after she left. The Starling had a charity night uptown. People pretended to forget they were attending for the photos. The balcony seats were full of donors in suits that looked like boats in a storm. I had a test sheet for the sprinkler zones and a dry smile. I did not endanger anyone. That matters. During intermission, I told the stage manager I needed to trigger a quick malfunction drill in the upper balcony zone. He said, "Make it quick. The board is mine. The water is the city's." I opened the test valve, let the pressure bump, and watched a paper cup in the control room shake. 10 seconds, then 20. Then the row I had flagged gave a pretty little rain over seats that should have been dry. Gavin and Lena were in those seats. Tess had texted them a message from a number neither of them recognized, telling them to change to that row to spot a celebrity. I watched on the monitor that shows the house, not the box. People laughed. Someone yelped. It is funny how humiliation sounds the same in all languages. They stood drenched in that thin, clean water, and a smattering of phones rose like a field of metal flowers. After, in the side alley, Tess slid up behind me and whispered in my ear like a wrong prayer. The anonymous complaint, I wrote it. I wanted her out. Then I wanted to walk her hand in hand to the next job and tell her who saved her. That is a better story. I turned. "You are using me." She smiled. "You are not the only one who knows where the valves are." My stomach went cold. Not from guilt, from the realization that my anger had a manager. By Saturday, Gray Harbor sat under a sky the color of old tin. "Nor'easter," the radio said. "Tie down what you want to keep." The Boardwalk Fun Park had shut half its lights, but left the big tent up for a brand pop-up tied to NorthQuay. I heard it from a vendor who rents gear to both the Starling and to event companies. The vendor badge IDs share a union local. That is how cities work. Everyone knows a guy who knows a guy, and none of them need a password. Amaya called. "Policy," she said. "That is how this ends. Not handcuffs. Comped bottles. Bad receipts with bad notes. Badge misuse that security can confirm on logs. The anonymous complaint is trash, so it dies. But the receipts make noise that the right ears can hear. Your marriage is not my job, Evan. Your wife is not my employee when she is at home. But the company is mine to keep honest." "Thank you," I said. "Do not get sloppy," she said. Sometimes the bad guys slip at the finish line because they think momentum is a handshake. On my way home, I scrolled through texts. A burner number had sent the lipstick photo to Lena with a little caption. "Your husband has a hobby." It was not my number. It was Tess's. I did not need to be a detective to read the tone. She wanted acceleration. She wanted the explosion on camera. She wanted to stand warm by the blast. I met Tess on the sidewalk outside the Beacon while rain began to needle, the sky low enough to touch. She looked eager, then annoyed when she saw my face. "You told Gavin I ate with HR?" I said. "The night at the marina, you told him. You wanted him to chase me so you could film a panic." She blinked fast. "You have good instincts when you actually use them." "Why?" "Because the show is better when the actors know they're on stage," she said. She pulled out her phone and showed me a private account. Local scandal. She had 48,000 followers and a grid full of blurred faces and vague captions. She was making money from noise. She had posted the balcony deluge with a caption that said, "Karma likes the balcony." It had a sponsor tag for a bar I did not like. "You are not on my side," I said. "I am on the side of the story," she said. "And you, my boring brother-in-law, are finally interesting," I could have yelled. Instead, I hit record. Not secretly in a private place, not some illegal wiretap. I recorded my own conversation on the public sidewalk in the rain as I told Tess I thought she had staged parts of this for an audience. She laughed and confirmed the parts that made her sound clever. That was enough. "Fine," I said. "If I am the villain, I get to write the ending." She tilted her head. Finally. The tent was a white belly under a sky with black teeth. Wind pulled at the ropes. The fun park creaked and flashed like a carnival that got lost on the way to summer. I signed in with the vendor badge I use at the Starling, the same union local stamped on the event contractor's lanyard. No lies, only overlaps. Inside, NorthQuay had set up an arcade of branded demos. Screens looped happy faces holding things they did not need. The DJ spun a track that sounded like a blender full of anxiety. Gavin worked the center like a salesman in a commercial. Lena stood to the side, hair perfect again, clothes clean again, face empty in that smart way. I found the confetti cannon parked behind the riser. It was on a timer for the big reveal at the end. Confetti is harmless. Confetti makes a mess nobody sues over. I moved the feed banner that would unroll. The original read NorthQuay Future Fun. I had stenciled a clean, dumb little message over the second banner. NorthQuay loves nepotism. Not a lie, not a charge. An opinion, framed as a joke. People would photograph it and say, "Guess," they leaned into the rumor. No one would go to a police station over it. While the crew scrambled, I pushed the aux feed on the DJ screen and cued a clip from a public link I had mirrored earlier. Not hacked, not stolen. Mirrored. Tess had already posted a compilation of sauna selfies and comped bottle receipts on her Scandal account, gloating about NorthQuay culture. I put her own headline beneath them. Tess Vale breaks the story. Leave the attribution. Let people see who cut the cake. The cannon fired early to the beat of a thunder crack. Confetti blew across the tent. The banner unrolled with its tidy insult. For a second, the room froze. Then the laughter rose. The film loop cut to the receipts and selfies. The COO of NorthQuay was there, a woman with eyes like sockets for bolts. She saw more in those 3 images than any shouted accusation could hold. The room shifted. Gavin went white like he had on my kitchen floor that first night. He looked for the exit, for a place to stand that was not under judgment. He saw the coupe through the flap. He bolted. I followed. The midway was a cage of slapping tarps and screaming wind. He ran with the look of a man whose body just found out he did not have a plan B. I kept him in sight. Shoes slapped wet boards. He cut down the corridor by the old photo booths. The lights inside flickered like a bad channel. He turned and squared up. He had hands, I will give him that. He threw one at my jaw. It caught my cheek and surprised us both. I put my palm on his chest and shoved hard enough to make a point and to move him back into the shot of the security camera like a man presenting a case study. I slapped him once. Not theatrical, not a wind-up, just a clean, hard slap that makes a noise like a door closing. His eyes went wide and wet. Enough, I said. Not a fight, a verdict. Crowd gathered because crowds are animals with many eyes. I dragged his keys once down the side of the coupe in a single mean line. Anyone can do that much damage with a ring if they are feeling small. It was public and petty and loud and not a lesson anyone could misunderstand. Then I dumped a bucket of plastic tokens over his head. They hit like rain on a tin roof, bouncing and skittering and shining in the stormlight. His hair stuck with confetti. He looked like a clown that had lost the punchline. Security arrived, faces out of breath. I put my hands out. I am done, I said. They looked at Gavin, then at me, then at the car, then at the crowd. The COO stepped in through the tent flap like the weather had made a door for her. Lena came up behind her, eyes searching for me, or for what used to be me. Tess was there too, phone up, streaming. Rain hammered the canvas. The sea threw itself at the pilings like an argument. I turned and faced Tess. I held up my phone and pressed play. Her voice from the sidewalk, bright with pride. I wrote the complaint. I told Gavin about dinner with HR. I posted the balcony flood and sold the repost. The crowd turned again, this time to her. She lowered her phone and tried to smile like the teacher had told a joke only she got. It did not land. You made money off this, I said. Off your sister, off me. Off anyone who bled for a minute and smiled for a camera because they did not know how to say no. I put my recording away. I had not sent it anywhere. I did not need to. I only needed the people who had bet on her to see the odds change. The COO looked at Amaya, who had arrived under a bright yellow raincoat, her hair plastered to her forehead. Amaya nodded once. Policy, her eyes said. Not rage. Policy. The COO moved like someone who had practiced bad news in a mirror. She spoke low to Gavin first, then to Lena. Then she pointed at Tess. The fun left the room the way a fuse runs out. Rain hammered. A gust pushed the tent so hard the poles groaned. The midway lights flickered. The DJ cut the track and let the wind do the music. I stood in a puddle of tokens, their cheap metal smell climbing into my nose. Gavin took a step and slipped and fell in a bright splash, and a wave of laughter moved across the crowd like heat. It was not kind laughter. It was the kind that takes your name and puts a dent in it. Amaya came to my side and spoke low. Expense abuses are confirmed by third parties. Badge misuse corroborated. Policy will do what policy does. No one's going to jail, but this party is over for them. I nodded. My cheek throbbed where Gavin had landed a surprise. My hand tingled where it had met his face. The tokens bounced like idiot hail. Lena faced me. Her mascara did not run. Of course it didn't. She wore the kind that stays. For a second, I saw us as something real again. Two people who had once laughed at the same dumb sitcom, who had once painted the kitchen on a Sunday and left a palm print behind the trash can on purpose. Then that picture burned down on its own, like a postcard in a sink. You said I could not finish a war, I said. She swallowed. You finished something, she said. She looked at Tess with a betrayal that had weight. Then she looked at Gavin, who had become a sticker on the wet ground. Then she looked past me like the town would rearrange itself if she waited. I did the last thing I had planned. I opened my phone and reported Tess's account for using my sidewalk footage without permission, the one where I was a participant and the one she had monetized with a sponsor tag. I flagged it with the site's little form. Then I screenshotted her brag posts and sent them to the sponsor herself, the bar that had paid for the post, with a simple line. Did you know you funded doxing? Not a threat. A question that money would answer by walking away. Tess's face flickered as her phone buzzed, and then froze, and then refused to refresh. Local Scandal spun and then coughed. She looked to me for a fix. There was none. You cannot apologize to the tide. The storm siren down by the marina screamed. The tent buckled once in the wind like a giant animal throwing off a blanket. The security team moved to brace the poles. The lights snapped to half power, then surged back. Confetti stuck to wet shoes like small mistakes. I stepped close to Lena until we stood inside each other's weather. I kept my voice level. You told me not to wait. You told me I could not finish. Here we are. She stared at me for a long second and said nothing. It was the smartest thing she had done in weeks. Past her, Gavin sat up slow, tokens sliding off him in a bright rash. People held their phones like torches. He looked at the coupe, at the line on the paint that would cost more than pride and never disappear. He looked at the COO and saw a door close. He looked at his hands and saw they were just hands. I turned and walked toward the flap. The wind came in and slapped me like a friend trying to wake me from a bad nap. The boardwalk tilted under my feet, because it always does in a storm. I did not look back for a last line. I did not want one. The last line was already written in the air, and it tasted like salt and metal and the end of something you should have ended earlier. A vendor cart rolled by, untethered, and slammed into the railing. The whole tent gasped. Gavin scrambled, and the tokens scattered again like a laugh track. The crowd parted in a ripple. Somewhere in that mess, a life had just been resized to fit. I stepped into the rain that wanted to be an ocean and let it wash the glitter off my jacket. The river below chopped and foamed and pulled at the pilings. The town held. The storm did what storms do. It moved through. Behind me, I heard nothing that required me to be a witness anymore. Ahead of me, the street shone in long stripes from the lamps. I put my hands in my pockets and walked, my cheek hot, my heart slow and sure for the first time in months. The night did not clap. It did not need to. The job was done.